Welcome to
Crazy, right?
A podcast
Be your own person.
for those affected by
Crazy, right?
mental health,
I wanted to just try it.
Crazy,
It's something that I've struggled with for a while.
featuring live improvised music
Now I finally got my head right again.
by your host,
am I right? Crazy,
It feels good to talk about it.
right? Crazy, right?
Dave Asher.
My guest today is Luke Warner. He is an improviser, rapper, comedian, and world traveler. Luke, thanks for joining me here today in my studio. I'm going to step over here to my piano.
You are in the arts, is that correct?
I am in the arts, yes.
In what capacity? Are you an actor? Are you a musician? Are you an improviser?
Yeah, I do improv. That's how I heard about you. I also do characters, solo type stuff. I also rap, write songs. I've been doing some shows where I perform songs by myself, rapping them.
When you rap, do you have a persona that you use?
Well, my rap name is Uncle Tasty. So my lyrics are pretty goofy and absurd and offensive.
They're offensive.
Yes.
Where does the name Uncle Tasty come from? What is that about? What is that referring to? And how does that factor into the content and its offensive nature?
So I had a fixation with tasty, with the word tasty for a while. And I'm like, I just want to use that. And then I'm an uncle, Uncle Luke. So I just thought, I'll go with Uncle Tasty. I feel like that's a unique name for a rapper. And it kind of could conjure up some thoughts for people that are inappropriate or politically incorrect. So
You are attempting to touch people's buttons?
yeah, in some ways. Through
And
humor.
say again?
Yeah, touch their buttons through humor.
Touch their buttons through humor. So, do you feel like people in the current climate are too easily offended, that they've become too much word policing and too easily offended and thin-skinned?
Yes, I do. I do believe that. So I'm kind of pushing against that, and yeah, I've done a few shows where I'm worried about people that will be offended, and then I've had good responses where they're like, a person who I did not expect to like it told me, "Hey, that was really good. I'm glad you did that." So that was encouraging, and then it showed me I was kind of prejudging them about how thin-skinned I thought they were, so I thought that was cool.
What is an example of one of your bits that you feel was constructed as a result of you trying to push someone's button, maybe offend them a little bit? What's an example of some material that falls in that category?
I got into... I was doing an improv scene with a gal, and I was playing like Jimmy John's son, and he was a bit of an asshole, and she was playing my mom, and she was wanting me to make more money. She's like, "We can't even afford milk now." And I said, "Well, why don't you get pregnant again? We can make milk." And then the audience had a big reaction, and then the person I was performing with got really defensive, and she was yelling at me like, "Hey, you can't talk to me like that. I'm your mother." And then this other girl came out and played my dad, and she said, "Yeah, respect the uterus." And I'm like, "Okay." And then people after the show were like talking like, "Hey, maybe you shouldn't have said that." And then the head of the theater said, "You shouldn't say that." Or, it's kind of using your partner for their sexual organs in the little scene. And I just felt like, well, I just came up with it on the spot. I thought it was a pretty funny line, and I didn't want to not say it because I thought of it more as like a breast milk joke, but people took it to offense of, me not exposing. I guess using her, her body for the scene with my words. So yeah, I didn't apologize for that because I thought it was clever.
What was the fallout like with the theater owner? Which theater is this at?
The County Clubhouse.
Okay.
It wasn't any repercussions. He just said, sometimes you say things like that, and I just encourage you not to. And I said, well, I kind of like offending people.
And what was their reaction to that?
I said, all right, that's cool, but it's not that many people are successful at offending people.
Do you feel like what are your goals in terms of do you have a goal beyond simply making a statement with offensive comedy, as you put it, or do you also feel like beyond that you would like to gain a following, become successful, monetize yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely want to monetize and be able to make a living at this. And underneath all the offensiveness and what I find in other people that do those kinds of things in humor and in creativity, especially in humor, is like really caring for people, because I do. And I'm very curious about people and their points of views, whatever they look like, or their,
What is your background like? Where are you from, and what was home life like for you growing up?
So I'm from Palatine, Illinois. It's a northwest suburb of Chicago. 2 parents, pretty wealthy, stayed still together. I have 2 older sisters. One's 8.5 years older, one's 3.5. The oldest one has 3 kids, and I babysat for them the other night. And then my other one, she's married and has 2 dogs. And
parents together through this whole time?
Yeah, my parents are very good people, successful, they're kind, and they're generous. And yeah, I can't really pinpoint any real trauma that made me want to become a comedic type person, other than I had older female cousins too, so I was the youngest boy, and the 5th cousin. So I don't know, I guess I was just kind of the odd man out, so I didn't talk too much. I would just sit and listen.
Can you recall the first moment when you felt like you defined yourself or would like to define yourself as a funny person? Like, what was it? Were there talent shows? Were you watching Saturday Night Live growing up?
Yeah, I was watching shows and stand-up a lot as a kid, kind of obsessed with it. I remember watching a Whitest Kids You Know sketch when I was in 11th grade or so, and I was just thinking, yeah, I want to do sketch comedy. I told my father that. He was like, okay, cool. And watching Ralphie May do stand-up, he was talking about doing acid, and I'm like, wow, you can talk about doing drugs in stand-up and they won't arrest you or anything. So seeing him, and
I take it you have done your fair share of drugs?
Yeah, a decent amount.
Decent
when I was
amount?
younger.
When you were younger?
Yeah.
That implies to me that at some point you became sober, is that correct? Or you just tempered it down?
Yeah, I can give you a little history.
Please do.
I started selling drugs first, actually. I was prescribed Adderall.
What year is this, and how old were you?
This was 2008 or so. I was a freshman in high school at that time. I'm 26 now. So I had Adderall, and I didn't want to take it anymore, so I would just bring it to school and sell it. And then later that year, freshman year, I started smoking weed. And then sophomore year, I started drinking. And then at that point, like sophomore to junior years, when I was doing more started doing psychedelics and ecstasy. I would go to like raves and concerts to do ecstasy, smoke cigarettes, and then I tried mushrooms a couple times, tried acid a couple times. Also huffed dust off around that time. The computer duster, it's like nitrous. You can just like suck it down, and it's a pretty intense, kind of just goofy high for like 30 seconds.
Around this time, was there ever a connection between your experimenting with these drugs, etc., and generating material or personas that might be doing comedy?
I think that kind of gave me a base for who I would become comedically. I was rebellious and just doing crazy stuff and creating some experiences and events.
You mentioned rebellious. It sounded like you had what people might refer to as, and I'm guessing you're not going to take offense at this term, a white privilege upbringing. Do you feel that's, maybe you don't ever would apply that word because of the connotations of that, but it felt like you came from a safe, provided, a safe upper middle class, together family unit, etc., correct?
Yeah.
So when you say rebellious, was there something about that experience that you felt like you were rebelling against, or were you rebelling against something outside of a family upbringing situation?
Yeah, it was more rebelling against school and how it was supposed to be as a kid.
How did you think you were being told to be?
Do your homework. You have to succeed in school or you're not going to be successful.
Was there messaging about what you were meant to do career-wise?
There's a little nudging here and there. My parents, they were pretty more lenient on me being the youngest. There wasn't that much of like, I had no idea what the fuck I wanted to do as a kid, and I still don't know that much now. I mean, I think I like comedy and stuff, and then other times I'm like, well, I don't know, I'd be down to do something else, like to travel. Going to Ireland soon, and I'm thinking that trip is going to be a reawakening in some capacity of don't want to keep acting and doing comedy and rapping and writing. So yeah, I just like to be able to evolve and have the freedom to express and find new things and get rid of old things that don't serve me anymore.
If you could pick one or two things that you feel like are not serving you anymore, or along the way things that you have felt that way about and have changed, what are one or two of those things?
I would say something I wanted to stop doing for a while is laying in bed once I'm awake. That was my one New Year's resolution. I've done it once this year. So I'm kind of like beat myself up about that.
You've done it once that you've gotten out of bed, or you've done it once that you've gone back to your old ways?
Yeah, I've gotten right out of bed once.
Only
right
once.
When I woke
so
up.
It's only worked once.
Yeah.
That I can really relate to that. That is quite literally one of my New Year's resolutions as well. Very close to it. Do you find? Have you, Luke? Have you had any difficulties or struggles, experiences with depression in the past few years?
Yeah, for sure. I believe I was diagnosed with it around 14 or so, 15, like ADHD and depression and anxiety.
Right, you mentioned
and all that.
some of the depression meds or anxiety meds.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm sorry I interrupted there for a second. So you got diagnosed with depression for the first time. You mentioned when that was?
Yeah, about 14 or 15. And they gave me some Zoloft Then they gave me some Paxil CR, some Balta. That was, sophomore, junior, senior year. And I'll go on and off them for a while, and go back to some of them, because when you take antidepressants, you feel better, and then you're like, oh, I don't need them anymore. So you stop taking them, and then you realize, oh, I'm depressed again. And I felt like I just kind of got chemically hooked on these things and believed that I wasn't able to do it by myself. I couldn't just exist without taking these meds and these side effects. So yeah, about 2-3 years ago, I stopped taking whatever I was on. I just decided to take responsibility for my own mental health, and just knowing that, oh, it's what I do. It's like the actions that I take will make me feel better. I'll get stuck in sink into depressive things when I stop doing things and taking action.
So what are some things that you feel like you can do behavior-wise to relieve the depression, or have you done or would like to try? I heard that first one about waking up, getting out of bed as soon as you wake up. Are there things like exercising or meditation or using your art? Yeah,
definitely. I remember looking back at some old writing from about 5.5 years ago, or 4.5, and it was really good, and I was really depressed at that time, I remember. So I made some really, some good poems and good insights through my writing that I look at. Also making phone calls. Like, everything you mentioned is good, but for me it's making phone calls. Like, I've created a good network of people through this course called the Landmark Forum, and all that education of where you just meet a community of people that all want to help each other and be supportive of each other, and you can talk to them and tell them where you're at and what you're dealing with, and they'll listen to you and coach you around, some actions you can take to feel better and not get stuck in your head and your machinery, as we call it, like survival mechanisms to be safe.
So going into that just a little bit more, survival mechanisms to be safe, that makes me think a little bit of, this might not be someone who I or you necessarily know much about, but that language of sort of our monkey brains. Mm-hmm. Do you have an assessment, personal, of yourself or just generally, about those survival mechanisms and how those factor into our daily mood or how we respond to the stimulus that we are presented with?
Yeah, I've also done some research on masculine and feminine energies. One thing, at least for me, I think like a lot of guys get stuck in our heads. And so we can just live in our own heads and not interact with people and avoid people, and that can kind of spiral into itself, where you just feel like you're stuck and you can't get out and you don't know what to do. And for me, that's the best time to make a phone call or talk to somebody about what I'm dealing with. But yeah, stuff like just kind of things that have happened in your past that you just accept as facts in your own brain, but they're not real. They're just in your head. So I heard or read somewhere that you make all your judgments about life before you're 5 years old, and then you have that childlike logic about that opinion about when that one person shoved you or beat you up, and then how the rest of the world is, or how people are to you. But it all exists just in your brain, not in reality. So getting out of your head, getting into reality, getting around other people, that helps for me.
You do improv, and when you're doing your rap, Uncle Tasty.
Yes.
What format is that coming in? Are you recording it? Are you performing it live?
Yeah, so I've written, I don't know, 20 or a little over 20 songs, and I'm working on 7 right now to put into a mixtape. And I've been performing them live past month or so, and been recording them as well. And my friend Stafford, who's a DJ, he's letting me use his studio at home to record. He's giving me tips and advice because he's done this kind of thing before, and this is my first time. So he's giving me some notes to rework some songs, and there's a lot that goes into making a song. And it's pretty cool to get into all that and dissect it and add all the layers into the lyrics. And
when you're adding those layers when you're working on a song, does that something that how does that interact with if you're feeling depressed? Does that elevate your mood above the depression? Does it somehow interact with it?
Yeah, most of my music is away from that. Like I don't really consider it avoiding all the dark stuff, because I delve into that usually in my own personal life rather than avoid it. But all the music and the comedy rap that I like is just very like silly, and it's kind of like way above all the muck and the depressing stuff. But I've written 1 or 2 songs that are kind of depressing or from my soul, from my heart, about breakups or, women, stuff like that hurts.
Are you currently in a relationship?
I'm not. I'm single.
What is that experience for you like, being a performer and being single, and also connecting that potentially to your comments about the potential for a male in our male brain to isolate ourselves and to be alone?
Yeah, I've been single most of my life. I enjoy performing. I think women enjoy knowing that I do that. Enjoy seeing it. It's fun to be single a lot of the time, and then there's other times where I'll think about an ex and be lonely, reminded of that. But it's very easy to just be inside your own head, and it's definitely beneficial to have a feminine presence around you, especially if it's someone that you both really care about each other. Then that's obviously a cool thing. I haven't found anyone, at least recently, where it seemed like it would be a good fit, like we'd be a good match for each other. I just respect my own time and space a lot right now. I want to be creating things and not, I guess, deal with my own stuff. I still have things to work out around women and dating and sex. And also going off to Ireland in about 6 months, 3 or 5 months now. Don't want to get into a relationship at this point. And I'm hopeful for someone I find in Ireland, because I've had luck in Europe before and have not had as much luck with the American women.
Would you say you've developed a sense for, in your mind, what might be a difference between a European woman and an American woman?
Yeah. This might be controversial, but I think just being with foreign people, especially, romantically, just an extra layer of intrigue and excitement, and you're both a part of that because you're both foreigners, you're in a different place. But I think like American women don't appreciate American men as much as women from other countries. And that could go the same for European, with people from the same countries and stuff. I don't know. I guess I find a lot of sass in American women that seems unnecessary to me, or just, I don't know, can rub me the wrong way at times.
Do you have any Uncle Tasty tracks that are about that sass?
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I mention it. I do rap about ladies quite a bit, and sexual things quite a bit.
Is there a rap you could share with us? If I just threw down a very generic beat, could you give us a little bit of one of your flows?
Yeah. Let me see.
Count me in on a tempo, or you can do it a cappella, however you'd like to do it, Luke. What if I just
go for
sort
it.
of like a... How's this for you?
That works. Fuck is your meaning? I got 'em fiending off of the cheesing, and I've been pleasing you lately because I'm big and shady. But call me Uncle Tasty, cause that's what my name be. Smoother than a sedative, I'm not too competitive. Still got that adrenaline, I'm steady with the venomous. Granny's on my dick, maybe your mom too. They biting on my neck like Nosferatu. She don't even know me, but she ride me like a pony. Now she forking up the cheddar like we eating macaroni. She give me her credit card, then I flex hard. Bought some new legs, now I'm a centaur. My cock is flaccid, but I'm still rockin' savage. I got to have it, so I snatch it and grab it. Making all this funny, I'm a fucking rapscallion. Ride off in the sunny on a fucking black stallion. Making them spritz at the sight of this limp cock. Drip drop, fresh out the rectum, this shit's hot. Tip top, shape I be in, still go flip flop. Hip hop, horsey on my carriage going clip clop. Yoink. That's it.
Nice, thank you for sharing that.
Hell yeah, that was awesome. That song is called Horsey. It's on the mixtape.
So it's yet to be released? Or
Yes.
Right, okay. Do you have a release date for that?
So I'm gonna be doing a show, I think May 2nd, where I have some opening acts that are I found to be filthy in ways that I like, or just my friends I want to perform, and then I'll, do all the songs at the end, and then we'll hang out and drink and talk afterwards. It's gonna be at my buddy's, I'm thinking. But yeah, as far as like releasing it on the internet and stuff, I'm not sure. Probably around that time though. It'll definitely be finished by that time. So yeah.
When you're coming up with those ciphers or those rhymes, those verses,
Yes.
it sounds like your main goal with this Uncle Tasty project is to push some boundaries and to be entertaining. It doesn't sound like necessarily to you, if I'm not mistaken, the content is necessarily meant to. Are you trying to forward any discourse? Are you trying to make a statement, or is it basically it's fun to get a rise out of people, and here's a character that can do that? Or is there more to it?
I guess, yeah, it's mostly just like fun. I want to have fun. I want people to see that it's fun to just talk like that or rap like that. And what I like about Ireland, especially why I'm attracted to going back there, is that they can take jokes and they'll say words like cunt or other shit like that, and it's not a big deal. It's like, it's just words. We're just talking, we're just saying stuff. We don't have to let it mean all these negative things about what the person who's saying it and, being all offended about things. So I guess, but underneath it is like, it's just words. You don't have to let it affect you in such a way that you become a victim to it.
Would you describe yourself currently or ever yourself as someone who has ever experienced a moment where somebody has said something that offended you, or you had an experience of thin skin or a chip on your shoulder, or any time when your relationship with words was such that you were on a receiving end of something that made you feel like either correctly or incorrectly, potentially, you were hurt by something somebody said.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I mean, it's happened at comedy shows, where I guess the past few years where being a straight white male, you're the oppressor, or you have privilege, so you should be nicer to people. And sometimes it feels like an attack where you can't defend yourself. And yeah, I guess it offends me or it upsets me, but I get where it's coming from, and I don't agree with it always that much. Most of the time I don't. But it's like, okay, I'm offended. But I guess I just sit with my being offended, and I'm like, why am I so offended? And I find it's because I associate with being a straight white male, so I'm attached to that identity in a way. So it's like, well, I'm also just a human being, so I don't have to identify with that so hardly or so aggressively, or whatever word I'm looking for.
Personally?
Yeah. I mean, it is personal in a way, but it's also like, okay, that's their expression, and somewhere in me, it triggers me to what I've been through and stuff.
When you say what you've been through, are you referring to a general your life story, or is there something that you've been through that this is triggering that might be something traumatic in your life? Is it the depression?
Yeah.
Is it? Go ahead.
I'd say both. Like if people make cancer jokes or things, like my mom had breast cancer and she's okay, but I don't get too upset or offended when people make jokes about it. I've also made jokes. Maybe it'd be a different story if she was not alive.
Well, my mother died of breast cancer, and I was 18, and I feel myself that I'm a hard person to offend. I take myself pretty seriously, and if somebody says something mean to me, or sometimes even not mean at all, I can really go deep into the tank about like self-doubt or obsess over what somebody has said to me or read into it. They might not even meant to offend me. And I'm not, my sense for myself is if I'm taking something personal like that, it's something about my baggage that I need to work on. Now, if somebody says, if somebody's like, oh, I'm so glad your mom died of cancer. Like, it's not like I'm gonna welcome that with like positivity in terms of like, oh, I'm so glad somebody said that. Yeah. But at the same time, a lot of it would depend on the context. And I definitely have I think if something is affecting somebody, the words are affecting them, that is not necessarily a good or bad thing. It's kind of subjective, right? And
yeah, I agree with that a lot. I think it always starts with you and yourself. Like that's where everything's generated from. So you should, I believe obviously taking care of yourself and self-improvement and not letting people walk all over you, but understanding that something that's triggering you could be just reminding you of something that maybe you haven't resolved, or just something you've been through.
Yeah. On the other side of that, I totally respect people who have institutionally stacked triggers. I think I have many, like my white male fragility is a lot different than someone who's had a different socioeconomic, gender, or racial upbringing. And So myself, for me, I don't really, that's not my lane in terms of comedy. But I feel like people who have that as a part of their brand, I don't feel a need personally anyway to speak against people who are using art or using speech, you know, like I feel like if someone is, I mean, it's a very complicated issue, and so I'm really glad that we're having this dialogue.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think, I'm always open to hearing people's stories and whatever color or gender I'm curious about, but I get upset when people use that to, I don't know, victimize themselves and then make me wrong about something for, you know, just for being who I am, which I have no choice of. Which I don't see that much anymore personally. But
say that. So you don't see people as much defining themselves as victims and taking offense to things that you do? That's what you're saying? Or you think generally, or you specifically?
Yeah, I think generally. I think I also can like create that narrative in my own head where I see people victimizing themselves, or because I've gotten into all that stuff on YouTube at times where like the social justice warrior stuff, but it also creates a negative narrative in my own head, viewing people like that as like victim warrior types. Or
could you unpack that a little bit for me? I'm not. What is an example of an interaction that you might have viewing or commenting or experiencing a YouTube video? Who is making these videos, and what is your reaction to them, and what is your...
Yeah, there's a lot of guys out there that are controversial, like Ben Shapiro or Milo Yiannopoulos, or like those two in particular are more right-wing, like debater, like Jordan Peterson too, where they debate people and they debate college kids, and the college kids will ask them questions about abortion or whatever subjects, and then they're just skilled debaters and they're knowledgeable, and then they kind of stump these, you know, the college kids or whoever's asking the questions, and, you know, at times can make them look foolish, and then other times like they can shed light on a point, but it's just kind of like jousting.
And when you watch this, your experience watching it, are you watching it rooting for these folks to get debunked by the host, or are you feeling some sort of schadenfreude, like delighting in the displeasure of these people who are being made a fool of potentially? Are you thinking about the political ramifications, like personally, like do you agree with one side or the other? What is your experience watching this and reflecting on your own beliefs or your own behavior?
Yeah, I don't enjoy seeing people humiliated unless they're like complete assholes, which isn't that often. But yeah, I more side with the well-equipped, famous people who debate thousands of people. And I also feel like I can't admit that I'm more right-leaning as a comedian type person. Feels very liberal.
You feel very liberal, you're saying? Or what feels very liberal?
Like the comedy community in Chicago.
Okay.
So even admitting that I agree with more right-leaning things as far as freedom of speech and, you know, personal responsibility. Yeah, but obviously I don't know that much about politics, but there's a lot of left ideas I agree with too. Yeah, it's just, I guess it's a little cathartic feeling like I'm in an environment that I don't always agree with, to see that, there's people out there that also I do agree with on certain issues that is controversial to agree with, and I don't have to be out there trying to share my own message about it. But yeah, I guess I like defending language and being able to say what you want, because I fear that, I think like with South Park, what's so important is that they keep pushing the boundary to keep the boundary bigger, because if people just let others restrict their language, it's going to keep restricting, and then we're just going to be left with not much room. So I think part of my Uncle Tasty persona is creating some room for myself, as like, okay, I'm going to say this crazy shit, and you'll probably laugh, or you might be offended and you might laugh or think this or that, or appreciate it or be upset. But that's who I am, and I want to create that space for myself, that I don't claim to be clean or politically correct, so that I can have that self-expression.
What do you feel, and I'm going to give my... See how this resonates to you. So I host this podcast about mental health and addiction, and part of the mission, as it were, might be that by sharing about people's struggles, it kind of related to what you were talking about this community of people who you can talk to, you can call them on the phone. So my take on this here, Luke, a little bit is that if we start to get super uptight about language that people use, this is one way of looking at things. I'm going to maybe throw another one out there too. If we are super uptight about the language that we use, then that starts to inhibit people speaking their mind about things.
Yes.
And then on the other side, there's if we start considering the language that we use, that brings more people into the conversation. So that's my sort of sense about it.
Yeah. I guess, considering the intent and the context of what you're saying, if your intent is malicious and to hurt people, then it's like, I guess it's not okay to just say whatever you want. But if your intent is to just be free to express yourself, if you have dark thoughts and you express them, other people can relate to you having those dark thoughts, and you have the courage to say it, and maybe that person doesn't, so they can relate to you, and this person has had this fucked up thought just like I have, so I feel closer to them, and my humanity is confirmed, and that I'm not the only person that thinks or talks like this to themselves.
Yeah.
So I guess I would like to be that for other people too, as far as in their rapping, where people are at a job that they feel stifled in. If they listen to my music, they can feel like, okay, well, Uncle Tasty can say it, maybe I can say it someday.
And that's interesting. Do you feel... So I'm getting a slight mixed message, but I know it can be murky to try and follow a train of thought like that sometimes. But
I also see it relating to mental health in a way of, like, having dark ruminating thoughts. I mean, I kind of touched on that, but
yeah.
Just, so you're getting a mixed message.
Well, just with respect to, when you say, for example, going back to that example at the Comedy Clubhouse of referring to another performer as by their ability, the character's ability to, we're starving.
Milk.
Why don't you have another child so you can have breast milk so we can eat?
Yes.
So where I'm getting a little bit thrown is the idea that should inspire people to feel free to say that to a loved one, to say, to make that choice in real life, as opposed to make a statement? Like, are you feeling like that is a viable solution to hunger? Is that a woman should get pregnant so that, you know what I'm saying? It's like, where does...
No.
That's what I'm hearing from some of your other stuff, is that it's like, well, I feel like if I can say something that people might refer to as misogynistic, then that means that other people can say those things and feel okay about it. Or is there a line in the middle where it relates to, if I say these things and give a voice to people who might have had these thoughts, it can question our way of how we think about things, but not encourage people to necessarily behave a certain way towards other people. I mean, I don't have the answer to this. I'm just trying to parse out a very sophisticated, difficult topic. Like, let's take maybe the most well-known insult comic, Donald Trump, right? Do you post or react to posts or feel any way that you would share about towards the president?
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine about him, and his opinion, which I think is very valid, is like, well, everybody's talking about him, and most people, I mean, especially in this city, people just shit on him all the time and call him a racist. And I mean, in his point of view, whatever bad publicity is still publicity, so people are still talking about him. His name is still relevant. He's still the president. He's still getting all this attention. So I feel like that's what feeds him. It doesn't matter if people hate him or not. So if people just ignored him or left him alone, he might not have as much power. But yeah, he's an asshole, but he's still like hanging in there, and he became the president, and he's doing all this shit and pissing people off. So I can respect that. He can like take that much heat. But yeah, otherwise I don't really have much of an opinion. I don't know what his policies are and things. I don't really follow him in that realm or look at anything he does online. I just hear about it from other people complaining about him. Yeah. And then, going back to what you said, as far as like the whole milk thing in the improv scene, I think where I'm defending my ability to, as an improviser, to speak freely and not be feared of, if I say this, I'll offend people or I'll get kicked off the team. Like, to me, that's not a super offensive line, but I get that it's controversial. And I guess whatever meaning people extract from that is how serious they take it or not.
Do you feel like you take life seriously?
Yeah, I do.
And do you feel like what we say is a big part of life?
I do, actually. Language definitely creates life. Without it,
so in one way,
exist.
You might say that you take seriously what people say.
Yeah, I think what people say is a lot different from what they mean or what they communicate at times. Like, they could be very upset, but they'll say, "Oh, I'm fine," and try to brush it off. A lot of people speak covertly a lot, and the raw, honest truth isn't expressed that much because it's often painful. So people hide behind or dance around language at times. But when people are speaking honestly and truthfully, and you're really listening to someone and you're trying to really get where they're coming from, the language can say more than how they're saying it, or what they're trying to convey could come across a lot differently than what you think they're really meaning.
are you thinking of an example with that? I just got lost a little bit. Like, I'm thinking, I was myself kind of interested in heading in a direction of capturing my empathy for people who view problematic content as hate speech. And connecting some dots with the idea that we take life seriously, we take what people say seriously, but
yeah, I guess it depends on what's being said or how it's being said. Like for me, if I'm rapping a goofy song or I'm listening to a goofy rap song, like I'm not gonna take my life advice from that, generally speaking. But if I'm talking to someone who's crying and they don't know how they're gonna pay their bills or if they're gonna see their friends again or whatever, then I'm gonna take that, what they say, a lot more seriously than, you know, seeing a show or listening to a song, just things like that.
And so it sounds to me like part of the conflict then comes in is that we don't know the other person's experience, and they might be going through that when they hear your song.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely tricky. So if they are offended at my song, I don't want to be the guy that's like, okay, well, fuck off, don't listen to it then. I'd rather hear their story, and if they're really hurt by something, and we actually can have a moment to talk on a human level to really hear them. And then if that, I've never run into that, so I don't know if I would be like, oh, I don't know, maybe I should change the song or whatnot, but I don't think I would do that, but not experienced that, so.
What have you experienced in terms, you've overall, the reaction to your shock rap is positive?
Yeah, pretty much. I've had some family friends who've seen it on Facebook, and then they say, yeah, I don't watch Luke's raps. One friend said he had to unfriend me on Facebook, and my parents were a bit concerned, and I thought, well, that's one or two people out of a lot more friends, so it's not going to be for everybody, and I don't want to change who I am. And right now I'm 20.
But are you Uncle Tasty, or is Uncle Tasty... I don't know enough of the Uncle Tasty catalog to know. My sense was that it was a character that you've constructed.
I haven't constructed it too much. It's just basically me rapping. But I gravitate towards those kind of lyrics. It's a lot about sex and bragging or self-deprecating, and but I mean, I definitely value conversations, and if I offend someone, I'm more like, okay, well, we can talk about it, like, why were you offended and this and that. Definitely curious about people's points of view rather than just shutting them off if they don't have anything positive to say. But that's me right now. I hope someday I can be, popular enough to where I'm, busy. There's too many people that would want to talk to me that I can't get to them all.
And what does that? If we could take us out here, Luke, on a rap, an improvised flow of looking at that future, like project yourself into that 3 years, 5 years from now, when everyone wants a piece of you. Everyone wants, right? What does that sound like?
Okay. Uncle Tasty, they flock and they swarm. I tell them my real name. It's Luke Schwanz, or Luke Warner, chilling in the corner with my beanie. Fuck is your meaning? Pop it off the top, you see. They cannot get enough of me. Try to shake all of their hands and stuff. Yeah, but I am the booty hole damager. Yeah, spitting that stamina, not the amateur. But if you invite me to your party, I hope that I can show up in the parameters. If I'm not too busy. Hey.
Thank you so much for joining me, Luke.
Hey, you're welcome, man.
Great
This is
chatting
awesome.
with you.
Hell yeah, likewise.
Thank you again to Luke Warner. You can follow his blog at lukewarnerblog.com and listen to Uncle Tasty on SoundCloud. His new show, A Tasteless Soiree, is May 7th, 8 p.m. at the Comedy Clubhouse. And you can follow at sir_uncle_tasty on Instagram for more information. Thanks again, Luke, and take care. That wraps up this episode of Crazy Right with Dave Asher. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider writing a review or rating this podcast. And of course, we would love it if you subscribe. I'm Dave Asher, and I'm glad to be here.